Hey, I'm Rusty Kelly,
And I'm Amelia McKay.
and this is the Breathing Problem Productions podcast. We're back already. We had like a year-long
Break.
break, and then all of a sudden we're trying to do more, and we're trying to kind of do like looser episodes. So our last episode was something that we had in our heads for like a year. It was about Brisson and Mouchette, something that's super important to us. But we're like, hey, let's keep going at this. We've got some momentum going. So we're going to talk about two interesting things. I think we're going to talk about two episodes of the Tyra Banks show. Tyra Banks, as you know, it was called Tyra, I guess, but was the African American model who rose to fame in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And created, as everyone knows, America's Next Top Model in 2003, which ran from 2003 to 2018, and then had a kind of short-lived talk show from 2005 to 2010 that's just really crazy and interesting to watch. And so the two things we're going to be talking about are two different interviews Tyra did. The first is an interview with former porn star Sasha Grey from, I believe, 2000. I want to say 2007. Yes, 2007. And the other one is an interview with Naomi Campbell. I don't have the year offhand, but before 2010, I assume.
After the phone throwing incident.
Yes.
And Naomi got
we're going to get into that. Yeah. And if you can, yeah, we'll get that. But the point is, this isn't a history of Tyra Banks or a history of America's Next Top Model. Those could be interesting episodes because we're both fans of America's Next Top Model and the fans of like the history of Tyra. I think one thing we could say though now is Tyra's definitely in the world of pop culture a controversial figure.
Yeah.
There's like so many TikToks and YouTube videos talking about we never realized how problematic Tyra
Yes.
Banks was, and it talks about the intense weirdness, for lack of a better word, that Tyra had towards contestants and her kind of issues with Black identity and feminism and herself.
Yeah, and wanting to break the system of like modeling, and she thought she could be progressive in that, but in fact she actually kind of like did the opposite of everything.
Yeah,
that
it
she
wasn't
said she
just
wanted to do.
reinforcing these kind of played out stereotypes of what a model should be. That's why, I mean, someday we should talk about America's Next Top Model.
Yeah.
Because Tyra is at once using at the time, the kind of conversation about what are models bad for the world? Are they making girls have eating disorders? Like, is modeling this negative thing? And so there was a kind of progressive, like, no, like we're going to create new models. They're going to be thicker or bigger or not just all white.
Right.
And I'm Tyra and we're going to repackage this. But at the same time, she was using these girls to essentially do a jumping off point from this is the end of my modeling career. I want to find something new for myself. So I'm going to make not just entertainment, but I'm going to kind of control the show. And that's why the America's Next Top Model was, you watch it and it's so personal. The show feels very, much like Tyra's baby, and like the issues that Tyra maybe has with herself and the world and with other people get
revealed
like a on stage.
on accident, because she's kind of like just there to, she has free reign on the show. So
It does, and that's why, again, something that's interesting to us as people that are interested in the complex nature of human beings. America's Next Top Model showcased that really intensely. And I think now, of course, it's interesting how there's all these videos that at the time when the show was watching, and I loved to watch it at its peak, it was clear that there was really weird stuff that was going on, and not just the classic meme of like we were rooting for you, we were all rooting for you, or I was rooting for you.
How dare you?
Meme of her basically, if people don't know, yelling at a contestant because she's saying the contestant isn't trying enough, and she uses the contestant's own kind of poverty against her, saying that she's not going to make it as a model and she's going to be in her poor.
She's going to be on the mattress on her floor with her like little baby.
It's
like,
really
it's
twisted.
Really twisted.
And again, it's like, of course, there's more stuff, but it's all, more complex. And there's plenty of people who've done probably podcasts, YouTube videos to talk about it. But I think we can stop there and say that I think people like us can say we're interested in those problematic things that make us human and interesting. And now the thing that we're really talking about and focusing on is these 2 episodes of the Tyra show. Tyra she'd done this hugely popular, syndicated, I believe it's syndicated or was show, and it was, there was all these other world versions of America's Next Top Model. And then, Tyra's like, okay, I made it. Her ego's so big, another classic example, by the way, of Tyra's ego is when she decided she wanted to be a singer, and she made the contestants of the show like be extras in the music video, and it almost
dancers.
It almost felt like Tyra used the show's budget to make a music video for herself.
Yes.
And like, that's really weird and probably not cool, but it doesn't make her evil or anything. But these 2 episodes of the show, I think, are mind-blowingly interesting. Number 1, the interview with, at the time, rising porn star Sasha Grey, somebody who now when we look back on it, really created like this zeitgeist around her, where Sasha Grey was trying to be like this big porn star, and she made it. Like, she became something that people, not just porn people, talked about it. I wouldn't say to go far as to say she was like a deep throat type person where the whole world of pop culture was talking about Sasha Grey, but she became a pretty big porn star. And Sasha's whole kind of deal was like, I know that I'm just like doing porn. I know it's not pretty, and I know what this is, and I'm getting into it with like my eyes wide open, and
self exploration.
Right, I'm doing this as self exploration, and I don't care if I'm not getting exploited because I know I'm doing it, and I'm gonna be the biggest, best, sleaziest, sluttiest porn star, and no one's gonna stop me. And I think a lot of people were interested in that, and I'm sure people who liked consuming her pornography were more, and she was probably, I guess, aware of that, maybe, that they were like, we don't care, we just think you're hot or whatever. But she really, in her style of porn, really got into it. She's very vocal, like, do this to me, do that to me. It felt like she was kind of, I don't want to say in charge, but what she was, I guess, selling was that she knew how kind of dirty this was, and she was into it too.
Yeah.
And I think, and it seems like Sasha Grey's a streamer now, and she's doing great, and that's sick. And I'm totally, that's awesome. And I think, though, what Tyra, the whole time she's interviewing Sasha, is trying to essentially be like, get Sasha to be like, yeah, I was molested as a girl, and this is why I do porn. Like, it's so fucked up.
Yeah.
We're gonna go through the interview. It's only 16 minutes long, and we're gonna like essentially critique it and talk about it. But there's 2 really interesting things going on. There's both sides of this argument. Tyra and Sasha have a point they want to make, and minds they want to change. And I think what's interesting about the interview is both of their desires are kind of on display. Sasha wants to kind of showcase that she knows why she's doing it. She's not being exploited. She's in control, and I don't think that you can ever fully be in control of the way that people consume the porn that you're in.
So would you say that, like, in their conversation, Sasha's coming from this very, like, pro or like a sex positive kind of point of view, and then Tyra's kind of like questioning that, and then like being I think.
Yeah, I think.
Would you say it's like Tyra's being anti or sex negative?
I
Would you
mean,
say that?
undoubtedly, yes. I mean, this is at the time, like porn was bad. If you
Yeah.
do porn, you're weird. Like that's undoubtedly what Tyra is essentially saying. But I think what's interesting about Sasha Grey, because this came out in 2007, it was a very different time. So, now everyone's developed a vernacular. By the way, we're a pro sex worker show. We're pro women in
Right.
porn. Like there's no anti-sex, anti-porn in this conversation. But we're gonna have a complex, in our opinion, conversation about it. So forewarning. But I think that kind of vernacular wasn't really used by Sasha. She wasn't maybe underneath she's trying to give some of that. Like I think now if you go on TikTok or YouTube, there's a million sex workers who understand the way they want to portray themselves, and they have kind of a series of identities that they have that are influenced or informed by feminism and different and sex worker essays and identities and ideologies, where they would, I think Sasha is probably not coming from it in the exact place, which makes it I think complicated and interesting. I could probably go on and on. We should just listen to it. But I think I'll say this. So the reason this first interview is really important to me is because the first Breathing Problem full length, which is the noise industrial project that both of us do now, it began as a solo project. And in 2000, I believe this tape came out in 2008, I want to say. And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact date. I could look it up, but needless to say, I sampled a cut up version of this interview where it's the interview and I put some effects through it, and there's some samples over it, but mostly the interview is pretty forefronted. And then in the booklet for the cassette, I actually transcribed by hand the entire interview. But by the way, I also, side note, the way I organized the interview, it said interviewer, and I'd write Tyra's part, and then performer, and it was Sasha's part, and I spelled performer wrong. I wrote preformer, and I wrote preformer so many times incorrectly, and it's very embarrassing. No one's ever said that to me, probably because they don't care. But now, if you want,
they noticed it.
You can make fun of me for it if you have the actual booklet. But this interview was kind of the reasons I just gave was really interesting because both people had their own reasons for doing the interview and wanted the other person to it was a debate, and I think it showcased these two conversations about, being anti-sex, pro-sex, and all of the kind of messiness in between, which
each person's agenda of
the agenda of the pornographer or the person who is the porn performer, and the anti-sex kind of interviewer. And I could keep going on and on, but I think the audience probably would rather just hear the interview and us talking about it. So let's go through it. So we're going to listen to the interview, and when you hear it, hopefully you'll probably hear some pieces of it being cut in and out, so you can have some reference. So this is Tyra Banks interviewing Sasha Grey. This is February 8th, 2007.
So Sasha, you are 18 years old.
Yes.
18 years old and have done 80 porn movies.
Around that, yeah.
Around that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at you right now, and you look like somebody that I went to middle school with, like somebody that went to my school, 8th grade. Do you think that is an appeal, that you look so young?
I definitely can say that there is a market for that people want to see the young, fresh face. But I do get typecast sometimes, but I would say probably only out of those 80 or so videos have I had to do that probably 5 or 6 times.
To act like you're younger than you are, to act like schoolgirl.
I don't do it though. I mean, you wear the clothes, you wear the wardrobe, but I try to change that. I don't want to portray that. That's not portraying that.
So I think this part's pretty interesting. So Tyra immediately begins the interview by saying, you're 18, you look like somebody I went to high school with, which is just weird because, yeah, Sasha Grey is 18. She is young. And she's basically, Tyra's trying to kind of lay out this idea that people are watching you because you look young and men are, pervert, pedophile-ish type people, which, you know what, like there are lots of reasons why people consume porn, and some of them are definitely because men probably want to see young women performing. And I think there a lot of what this interview has that's an issue with, where it's almost like Tyra's trying to blame Sasha for the porn industry and how twisted it can be. Keep in mind, we're not into porn, but and those tastes and what the tastes are on her on Sasha.
Yeah, totally.
Like, it's not Sasha's fault that men are interested in young girls or teenage 18-year-old legal
Right.
or beyond. But then what makes, I think, the interview interesting is that Sasha immediately tries to kind of change Tyra's mind, where she's like, yeah, people are interested in that because I'm 18. But, I try not to portray it that way. I'll wear the outfits, but I also try to change things up, which I think is interesting because Sasha probably could have just said, oh, well, people like seeing like hot girls and I'm a hot girl and like that's the way that they see me. But I think Sasha wanted Tyra to understand, like, oh, I know how they see me, but don't worry, like, I don't portray myself as young. And again, I think it's a symptom of the porn industry, which is that the porn industry is going to eat you alive and kind of showcase you however they want.
Yeah, and take advantage of whatever you have. Yeah.
Right. Tyra immediately wants Sasha to feel some kind of guilt, maybe, I don't know, win the argument and say, oh, there's creeps looking at you. But I think also Sasha, because we're not deconstructing a debate, this isn't about winning the debate, but the desire, Sasha, interestingly enough, has a desire to disarm Tyra by saying, I try to showcase myself in a different light. When, I don't know, yes, Sasha could wear a schoolgirl outfit like she mentions,
Yeah.
but I think even if Sasha was wearing like jeans and a t-shirt, she's gonna get naked, so that doesn't really change anything.
Right.
And it's it's like, I don't know what your thoughts are, but
no, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, it's just like the whole, like, coming at this, she's this expert on her own side, and so she's gonna seem like she's gonna be talking about all of this stuff in ways
like
that
a
kind of
defensive
downgrade.
way? Downplay, right?
Downplay, any sort of like aspect of
The
even the
desire of the
possibility that
age, yes, that-
you can be this age and this is how you're gonna be eaten
Packaged
up
and
and
sold.
yeah.
Some of the things that you did. Tell me about the 50-year-old co-star on the set of a movie.
Oh, let's see. That was the first scene I did, and
The very first scene you did.
yeah, my first scene, and
He was 50 years old,
he might be a couple years older than that. Yeah.
and you were only 18.
And he's actually one of the most well-known porn stars in this industry. And it was during a fellatio scene, and
Like oral sex.
yeah. So he was just telling me, oh, I'd like to do this to you, I'd like to do that, and he's Italian, so I can't really understand him. And I said, oh, would you like to punch me in the stomach? Go ahead. And he was just shocked. He didn't expect that from me. And that's the big answer.
And so you asked him to punch you in your stomach, and he punched you in your stomach.
No, he didn't.
So I think Sasha, interestingly here, kind of disarms Tyra by trying to shock her.
Yeah.
Which I really liked, because it was essentially, and this is why I think I was drawn to the interview, because in Sasha's desire to take charge, she almost reminds me of like someone who's a born performer, like, I don't know, fucking noise artist, whatever, which by the way, she did an Industrial Project, but that's not here nor there. Sasha says, oh yeah, my first scene, because Tyra's like, that guy was 50 and you were 18. Again, this kind of guilt trip, like, are you, I don't know, I feel like she's trying to somehow say you're promoting pedophilia or something like that. And instead Sasha's like, well, I don't know, he could have been older than 50, and then I told him to punch me in my fucking stomach and I didn't give a shit. And number one, though, that's what Sasha Grey was selling. Like, I'm the edgy dirty
I'm the edgiest
whore.
of the edgy. You don't even have to tell me what to do. I'll ask you to do the most degrading thing to me.
Right. And I like it. And she knew how to package herself, because that's how people, that's why people still probably talk about her. It's
unexpected. Yeah. I guess you could say it's unexpected or shocking coming from her who looks the way she does. And so she used that to her advantage as well. Like this whole this whole thing.
And Tyra immediately changes the subject because Sasha definitely disarms her, and
I want you to take me to your that very first scene, that very first sex scene. And what was it like walking on that set? Were you scared? Were you nervous? You're 18 years old.
The first scene I did, I was nervous the whole day because I just didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to be shell-shocked and just sit there like, and have no idea what to do. But once the actual scene started, once I was there in it, I felt completely in my own element.
And how far will you go? What won't you do? Because I know you say you do a lot.
Well, I won't do anything that has to do with children and anything that has to do with animals.
So you'll have anal sex on film?
I do, almost every scene.
Every scene?
I quickly want to say, like, Sasha again says something that's, I'm in control. I was in my element. I wasn't scared anymore. I made sure I was in control. And then Tyra takes the interview back to, what won't you do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and like implying, and then she goes on this list of like, Sasha's like, I won't do anything illegal, essentially, is what she's saying. And then Tyra's like, okay, well, I'm going to go down the list of like all these disgusting things,
She starts with anal sex.
Right. It's more shame.
Just about, yeah.
And I've heard that you do gangbang scenes. What is a gangbang scene?
It's just a large group of men with one girl.
And how many guys have been on you at one time in one scene?
I did one of those and it was 15 guys.
15 guys on you?
Again, she's like, what's a gangbang? It feels like it's like almost funny how brutal the Tyra questions are. It feels like a movie, like a Lifetime movie about an evil mother who's like trying to say the harshest, stuff to a person to make them feel like shit. And she's like, what's a gangbang? Oh, it's, multiple guys on one girl. What's the highest amount? And then that almost feels like this desire for not just the details, like, give me the details, but like, now Tyra's buying what Sasha's selling.
Yeah. Go ahead and shock our audience.
Well, not just shock. Like, it's like saying, what kind of cars do you sell? What's your best seller?
Oh yeah, totally.
And so Tyra, of course, is trying to make everyone disgusted and essentially shame Sasha. Now she's just allowing Sasha to sell the work, which is probably why Sasha came on there to begin with.
Yeah.
How did you tell your family that you were getting into this the first time? What did you tell them?
It was when I was here for about 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks I moved down here, and my mom had something to do with work down here, so she said, that's a good chance to come see you. Her and my sister came, and I showed them around Hollywood, and we went out to eat, and when they dropped me off, I kept trying to think of ways to say it all night, but there's really no right way to say that, especially to your mother. And I just said the real reason I came, first I started out by saying, I can't expect to get respect from you unless I have the respect to tell you. So I said the real reason I came down here was to do porn, and that's how it went.
And what was her response?
Oh, God this, God that. Oh my God, your body is sacred, it's a temple. My sister laughed. But I think that's more of the, I'm afraid laugh than a ha-ha funny laugh. But
This interview was actually really strange for me, Sasha, because I feel like I'm talking to a young girl. I am talking to a young girl. And you look very young. The things that you're talking about, you talk about them just so lightly. And it's just a lot. And we're going to take a break. And her boyfriend Ian is here. And we're going to talk to him. And I need to regroup a little bit and get this together because this is very difficult for me.
Okay, again, Tyra says something like, I want you to tell me the horrible story of your family finding out that you're a disgusting porn star. And again, what Sasha does is she tells a story that I think anyone can relate to. Maybe we're not all telling our parents about porn, but says, my mom and my sister came down. Again, just humanizing herself as a smart. And my mother came down. Sasha says this kind of nonsensical thing about, you can't respect me unless I respect you. But essentially tells her, the mom's shocked, the sister laughs, but Sasha's trying to kind of, maybe she's not even aware of it, but needless to say, I think it humanizes her more. And then, immediately Tyra's like, I don't care about this. Like, it's not even, it's bad interview 101, by the way. As the interviewer, you should kind of engage with the material. Maybe she could have said, oh, and then what'd your dad say, or whatever, but just like not even about how she's saying, but or like she just changes because she's not getting the reaction she wants, which is, I feel like I'm looking at a young girl. You are a young girl. So it goes back to, you are a victim. But I think the other thing that's interesting to me is, I think there is some truth to the harshness and the way that pornography and specifically the pornography industry, we live in an age where I think more people are able to like do OnlyFans and deal with it themselves. But undeniably, there's the porn industry, specifically at that time, like use the girls and spit them out, even Hollywood. So I think the going back to her age is a disgusting tactic, but there's also a kind of truth to that in terms of the way the porn consumers see Sasha, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, yes, Tyra is being exploitative and mean and trying to shame her for an industry. And then the kind of looming thing is that the industry is always going back to her age. They don't care about, the family and telling the family the story.
Or how smart she
is. The men who watch the porn, Sasha's porn, are going back to that thing. And so I think what's interesting is like Tyra and then the consumers of porn and the industry of porn are one and the same. And Sasha almost feels like someone trying to take back control, but then they're in this system that's constantly abusing their body and using their body. And no matter how many times you kind of try to get your footing, it grabs you. And I was probably going to get into it later, but because in this interview, they mentioned Sasha's boyfriend, this guy named Ian Cinnamon, who is essentially like her, I don't want to say pimp, what do they call it? A suitcase pimp. Mm-hmm. And in the last, decade, Sasha Grey, after she got out of porn, came out and said Ian forced her into porn, for lack of a better term, or really pushed her into it. Yeah. And that he was abusive to her. I think all I can say is that's awful and it's terrible. And again, I think it makes the whole situation a lot more complex.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because
it's not about us saying like, oh, pornography is evil and women aren't obviously just victims, and it's not about the simplistic nature of that. But I think the kind of reality of her boyfriend even being there and trying to have a name for himself within the industry showcases the control of women's bodies. Anyway, I'm going on. I'm sorry. We'll just keep going.
So Sasha, before our break, with me talking to you, I find that you're cold and distant.
So again, it's like, you talk about these things like they're just like not a big deal. Like, but really what's happening is Tyra, number one, clearly didn't prepare correctly. Or whoever's writing the questions for her or whatever, like she's, what do you get from her?
I get that she's intimidated. That's always how I feel though with Tyra, is that she thinks that this is going to be a great idea and she's going to own this person.
She's going to be in control.
And what happens is she ends up like halfway through being extremely uncomfortable because she's intimidated and out of her depth, which she was,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
Totally. Yes.
yeah.
And it's like she's almost like, God, I gotta get my bearings. This is so fucking
Let's
gross.
take a break.
Yeah, like, but really it feels like she's like, oh, you're not giving me what I want.
Yeah.
Like the porn director or whatever you want to call it. You're not giving me the desperation that I want.
Yes, yeah, totally.
And hard, and I can't help but think that there is something that made you that way.
That's a fucked up thing to say.
I mean, it's, again, this is why Tyra's called out a lot of
they
these
came
people.
back on like from the break and just
She says you're cold
Yeah.
and hard.
yes, and that's just such a harsh way to start. There's nothing really what she was saying before that
It wasn't cold and
no,
hard.
not at all.
She's
yeah.
nervous. She's on a fucking talk show being ripped apart in front of the whole world. I'd say it's probably more a reflection of Sasha's personality. She's probably just, that's the way she talks. And
Yeah.
she's got like a more flat way of speaking. I mean, fucking Tyra Banks is being harsh and cold. There's a
Yeah.
reason people like Oprah. I think we could go look at Oprah talking to porn stars. She'd probably be much more like warm to them, you know?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
like you're not supposed to immediately just showcase disgust.
Absolutely.
But again, it's almost like Tyra is trying to break her. She's like, you should be crying right now. You should be an idiot who is saying, and I think the truth is Tyra's insecure, and we see that
absolutely, yes.
in America's Next Top Model.
Right.
That you're part of this. You're part of this evil mechanism. But again, it's like blaming somebody for being part of porn industry, and just like the classic like arrest the prostitute and don't arrest the John kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I forgot about this. Just her saying like, you're so cold.
No, I just think when I'm dealing with business, I'm dealing with business, and I'm trying to get my facts out there. I'm trying to get my point out there. I mean, I may, what some people think, look like a young girl, but I'm actually a very responsible young woman.
A lot of porn stars, when they were younger, a big majority of them, if doing research, have said that they were sexually abused in some way.
A large amount.
Were you sexually abused in any way?
Not at all, no.
I mean, so Tyra says, why are you cold? And she's just saying, no, I'm not cold. I'm a responsible young woman she's essentially trying to say, I'm building my brand right now, lady.
I came on here for that reason.
I'm doing something. You can like harangue me and call me a victim, and I'm just gonna not cry and freak out. And then Tyra doesn't even, it's like bad interviewing at a mechanical level. At least respond to the answer. So
Yeah.
again, because of Tyra's insecurity, she can't go, oh, like, I don't know, like, oh yeah, you are just, this is, maybe she's saying, oh, so is porn just like this industry, this thing, stepping stone? If you're a responsible young woman, you could have, become a doctor, whatever, the usual bullshit. But Tyra, it angers her, so she immediately is like, were you raped? Were you molested? And it's interesting because Sasha Grey goes, yeah, there were a lot of girls that were molested. I mean, the truth also is, like, how many women, even who aren't porn stars, have been sexually abused?
Yeah. This statistic doesn't...
It means nothing, really.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it's just Tyra's asking bad questions that are awful and mean, but they're also kind of stupid. Like, just they're simplistic.
Right.
If she wanted to disarm her and rip her apart, it's like it's not even good. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this is just something that you just want to do just because?
Not just because I have, like I said earlier, it's self-exploration firsthand, and I'm getting to do it in a sex-positive way.
Well, and with going into porn, Sasha, there is a big percentage, as I said, of women that have had issues, whether or not they want to admit them or not, or face them or not, that there's a reason why they go into it. So it's not so much that I'm sitting here judging you for what you do. It's more of the reason why you're doing it. Do you understand? There's a difference of, everybody has a choice. You're 18 years old. Pornography is legal. You're not going to go to jail for what you do.
Exactly.
But there's still a reason why everyone does everything, why everyone makes any choice that they make in their life. And that's why you're here. Because there's a reason why I do this talk show. There's a reason why I broke up with the last boyfriend, or he broke up with me, or whatever it may be. There's a reason for everything.
Okay.
So as you said, you included this whole interview in your booklet in 2008. And I just wanted to ask you why you were interested in this, and especially like kind of comment on like the last part there, what she was saying about choices and all that.
For sure. So I think there's kind of a loop of Tyra again. Sasha answers to say like, I'm responsible young woman, and then Tyra says, were you sexually abused? She says no, and then she's like, so this is just something you want to do, which is insane. It's like, well, she wants to survive and live, but then again, Sasha doesn't talk about money, which I think is interesting. I having to go back and say I was wrong, because she does use the term sex positive. She says it's self-exploration, and I'm getting to do it in a sex positive way. It's from like Sex Positive, Susie Bright, all those kind of people. So she's definitely using terminology from that. And then Tyra goes back to, I'm not going to even respond to that. You're hiding something. I know it. Tell me the truth. Tyra's basically implying like, I knew all along that you were raped. But then she says something that's really kind of incredible, because she says, there's a reason that we do everything. There's a reason I do this talk show, and there's a reason you do porn. And that's really what my interest is about. The desire for Tyra's ego to be indulged, for her to feel like this kind of moral arbiter of what's right and wrong. And really, though, I think it's less about morals for her and more about, I'm the smart woman who's in charge.
Who's made the right choices. Because we go back to the Tyra show, she's always judging people for the way they live. I don't know. Again, I'm white, I'm a man, but I do think it's interesting that she seems to have a very specific worldview, which seems to be like a kind of, I'm not a victim. I worked really hard. My mother and I worked really hard, and we made it. And there's lots of victims who just do the wrong choice in the world, whether it's like drug dealing or whatever, or sex work. And what do you think? Well, again, it kind of goes back to me saying, like, I think it comes from this weird thing maybe in her. This could go into the next part, really. I could save it for then, but I would just say, Tyra's insecurity kind of comes out in that way as well, because thinking about her telling herself that she's made all these right choices, I think it goes back even to like her modeling days, when she compared herself to other models that were more successful, and the choices that they were making at the time, they were a little more free to party, you could say, because Tyra, I don't know if everybody knows this, but she had her mother around her throughout her entire career, especially her early career. Yeah, and her mother really sheltered her from that world of partying, models partying, and so I think it goes into like that kind of thing of being like, I made these right choices, and
I was protected. My mom made the right decision. I didn't become like, and that's good. It's like Tyra had a mother who was there. There's lots of, girls and guys that go into the world of entertainment or modeling, and they fall apart because maybe they didn't have that person to care for them and watch them.
It's true, but I do think that there's a part of her that regrets having her mother around
and
like
resents
that,
her mom, maybe.
And in that way, because Naomi, the one person that she compares herself to all the time,
Naomi Campbell,
she was in the scene. She wasn't just a model. She was in the high group,
because the zeitgeist of the model actor, the mid 90s world. Like, she made it, and Tyra was. I mean, we're gonna get in that in a second.
Yeah, well, let's get into it later.
But the point is like, this moment, Tyra's, instead of realizing, why are you asking these questions, Tyra? And what are you trying to get at? And the truth of, Sasha Grey, which is, we dealt with this. Did we ever do an episode about Annabelle Chong? We should.
No, we should. This whole episode has made me realize that
Well, there's
a bunch of parallels we could talk about then.
Well, one of Amelia and I, we have a project called Convex that's all about porn star Annabelle Chong and her documentary Sex, the Annabelle Chong story, which we'll get into a separate episode, but it's about the concept of like the pornographer who's self-aware and is a feminist studies major, and who tries to get thrown into the pornography machine and tries to stay in control, and it doesn't work, and there's all these forces and her own identity and insecurity. And so when I think about what Sasha's saying, which is this is self-exploration, it's sex positive, but she never mentions like the money aspect, or it's like those things are true. You shouldn't hate the fact that you have sex, and sex isn't a negative thing, but maybe the truth also that there is this ugly machine that tries to degrade and exploit and destroy you, just like all, work, whether in a factory or anything. So we're not trying to focus on pornography as the worst version of anything else. But so when we say the question of, Sasha probably wasn't molested. I think she's telling the truth. You don't do pornography because you were molested or I didn't have a dad or whatever bullshit. You do pornography for your own reasons. But I think, again, Sasha, what's interesting to me is trying to showcase herself as the porn star who's in control and is self-aware.
The enlightened porn star.
Right.
Yeah.
The enlightened porn star. But that this whole system just can break you down and destroy you. And then the next part...
I think in a way, that's a tactic, is in a way of the industry, is to make women feel as though they're enlightened and in control and empowered by all of that, which is its own complicated thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then I think a great example of not just the industry is the next part of the interview, where they interview her boyfriend / manager, who we now know kind of pushed her into pornography and controlled her and abused her. And so that's kind of this looming thing of using the terminology of being in control, Sasha, but then also the reality of being abused by a man who's, let's look at, sex work. Some of the worst parts of it are the men that are involved that control women, right? So maybe that's why there's in the future now, maybe things like OnlyFans are a little better, or even camming in some respects, because people are in control, and that's complicated too. But it's not about Sasha being bad, but about the system and the people that are using her and kind of injecting her with kind of things to say, which maybe are true. She should be sex positive. She should explore, but and she should sell herself and say, I'm the enlightened porn star, but then there's the looming underbelly in reality. But so that's why this is also interesting and complex to me. Yeah. Two people that are at kind of arguing and fighting, but have their own things to hide and things that they don't want to explore.
In the audience right now is Sasha's boyfriend, Ian. And where are you, Ian?
Right here.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
So, Ian, how is it like having a porn star girlfriend, especially being 18 years old?
It's different. It's progressive,
It's progressive?
Yeah, it's, how many relationships are you in where you get, STD tests every, month, I can't, when I was in college, I didn't do that,
So she gets an STD, you get an STD test every month?
Every month, every 25 days.
Have you ever got an STD from a scene?
Yes, I have.
You have? What STD did you get from a scene?
Gonorrhea.
How did you get gonorrhea? Just from a male partner in the scene?
It's going to be from somebody you work with.
All right. And how old are you, 31?
31.
You're 31 years old. And she's 18.
That's correct, yes.
Anything sound weird in that to you?
No, of course, the age difference, we knew each other as friends before, I didn't know she was going to choose this.
Of course, there's a lot of red flags here. Number one thing we'll say that's interesting is Sasha's very truthful, and it's like, yeah, I did get an STD, and that happens, and like, that's a good answer, and it's a truthful answer, and that kind of makes Tyra a little uncomfortable. But then she does say something that's true. It's like, you're 31 and she's 18, and he's like, I knew her before. And you're like, wait, you knew her before she was 18?
You were friends.
You were friends. I say that in air quotes.
Like when you were 29 and she was 17 or
even worse.
Or like, yeah, right. It gets worse.
No, but and again, it's like, this is the cliche story of the pimp who manipulates the young underage girl. Literally, there's that movie Red Rocket that came out last year about a suitcase pimp trying to get a young girl to go and but whatever. But I think this is this really gross underbelly of pimping out a girl, manipulating her. And I think I don't want to be so simple, like such a kind of simple person to be like, and this showcases how everyone's lying to each other in the sex industry, and they're all trying to use this stuff to hide the truth. But it's more like there's things that are true about you being able to, a woman that can use her sexuality to do whatever she wants to do. And pornography is legal, and there's people that probably have good experiences, or maybe they have mixed experiences like all work. But I think this guy showcases the really grotesque truth of some cases of people and if they're forced into porn, or not forced but manipulated. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I this is super uncomfortable, for everybody, and Tyra too.
And it's weird because Tyra does give one good answer, which is, doesn't this seem weird? And I think for the time that it was shown, 2007, like that kind of huge red flag wasn't in, like, I'm sure some people have been like, oh, whatever, that's beside the point, you know?
Yeah.
But, we built a strong relationship as friends, and...
How does your family feel about you being with an 18-year-old porn star?
They're fine, I mean, as long as you're not hurting anybody.
So your family's okay with this?
Yeah.
Your mother is okay with this?
Yeah. My mother's a very progressive woman. I mean,
my mother's progressive too, but if I was a porn star, she wouldn't be so happy with that.
Everyone's different. Everyone has their different opinions.
Most definitely. Sasha's manager, Mark Spiegler, is with us in the audience. Did I say that right, Spiegler?
Yes.
Hi, Mark. So Sasha sought you out to be her manager, to be her agent, right? Mm-hmm. And what is the impression that when she walked into your office, what did you see?
Well, actually, first she emailed me, and then I spoke to her on the phone. And as you can see, she's highly intelligent, very mature when you say about the age difference, age does not always make a child or a woman. I mean, she's very mature. If you spoke to her over the phone, you'd think she was 31 years old. But I spoke to her. She seemed like this is what she wanted to do. Like she said, she not only researched like agents, but she watched the movies. This is really what she wanted to do. And she had sent me pictures and stuff. I said, well, if you look like the pictures and really, do what you say you're going to do and everything, you should do really well.
What did she say she was going to do?
Well, she sent me a list of what she was going to do, and it was pretty much everything they do in this business.
Sasha, what are your hopes for your future?
I mean, this isn't something we really have to comment on, but Spiegler girls, it's like I guess Mark Spiegler, I could be doing this wrong, but is like a well-known, like the best of the best porn kind of manager who will get you the best deals with the best production companies. I could be saying that all wrong, but I know about Mark Spiegler specifically from this really great podcast that's worth checking out called The Butterfly Effect by this guy. His name is, I think, John Ronson, yeah. And it's worth listening to, but there's a whole thing about who the Spiegler girls are, and basically if you're a Spiegler girl, you get all the jobs, and if you're not, it's harder. So it sounds like Sasha immediately, either from someone telling her, or she knew to go after this guy and say, like, if I want to get big in the industry, he's the guy. But whatever.
I would also like to direct in this business. Not only direct, I'd like to produce independent films.
Mm-hmm. Independent pornography films?
No.
Independent?
Mainstream, yeah.
Okay. And what else? Do you want children?
I want children. I want to travel the world. I want to see. I want to explore. I want to write. I want to live life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope the best for you.
Thank you.
I really, really do.
That's it. Basically, the end is kind of just like, Sasha saying... but really, the interview ends with, I would say, the question of that we all do what we want to do, and we all have a reason for what we do. But I think the boyfriend being interviewed for a second, I don't know, it's just funny because he's so not prepared. He's like, I think it's really progressive because we get STD tests. Like anyone can get STD tests. But everyone seems unprepared for this interview, which is interesting. Except maybe Sasha. But I don't know. What do you think about it overall? Do you think? I guess to me it just showcases what we're about to see also, which is that Tyra wants to control the conversation. She has a agenda.
Yes.
And if it kind of gets off track, it really
It gets
pisses
off
her
track
off.
only because of her insecurities and her inability to handle what's coming at her, because
Right.
she's unprepared and, like I said, out of her depth. She does the same exact kind of thing with Naomi, where
Right.
she kind of comes in thinking that she has this total handle and that she's going to own her. And then it pretty much falls apart. Yeah.
Okay, so I would just say, that this is the end of the Sasha Grey section. I think we kind of said everything, but I ultimately I think I'm interested, and I think we're interested in the complexities of both parts of the interview. I would say Sasha isn't doing anything wrong or saying anything wrong. Tyra's definitely being pretty shitty and trying to make her feel shame about an industry she has no control over.
And admit to what isn't true in a lot of senses.
Right. She wants her to be like, you're the victim, you're blah, blah. But I think similarly, though, there's a kind of looming truth about what we know now, which is that Ian Cinnamon is an abusive, like, piece of shit pimp or worse. And that there's a kind of, I think in some ways Tyra Banks might see this interview and go, look, I was right, but she's not right. But at the same time, there's a brutal reality that can exist in, not, like I said, sex work, but any job, which is you doing what you do to have to survive. But then there's also people that can manipulate you and chew you up and spit you out along the way. Now, Sasha Grey doesn't have a bad ending. She has a good ending. Like, she seems to be doing stuff on Twitch and created she became a mini celebrity in her own right. She acted in this film, The Girlfriend Experience, that Steven Soderbergh made. So, like, she's not some sad suicide story or drug addict story. She clearly was really smart and did something for herself. But I think what's interesting is, what are we all trying to sell to make ourselves feel more whole and better about what we're doing? All people do that, including me. We're all trying to package things to make the way we see ourselves feel more whole.
Yeah, and you're trying to sterilize it, and part of that process is to sometimes ignore your own human experience sometimes.
Right, to downplay things that might be bad and abusive or
complex,
degrading, and back to her, the truth of, like, oh, yes, maybe they look at me because I'm young, but I try to, like, wear different outfits when the porn industry is basically, or the consumers of the porn industry are saying, like, no, all we care about is that. So we're going to move on. This is the next conversation is kind of the meat, or maybe it's, which is going to be a conversation that Tyra had with Naomi Campbell. So I'm going to bring up the interview. Woo. All right, so we're back. This next section, do you want to get into what it is?
So this is the Tyra Banks interview with Naomi Campbell. What year is this from?
I don't know.
I want to say like 2009.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So Tyra and Naomi have a long history that goes way back, and we pretty much only know this from very vague stories where Tyra is clearly talking about Naomi, and there seems to be some drama about how Naomi made it extremely impossible for Tyra in the modeling world. She basically alienated her, and it seems like anytime they did any kind of work together, that Naomi was very mean to Tyra. And Tyra would probably claim that Naomi Campbell was her bully.
Right.
And so after Naomi Campbell got called out for throwing her phone at, I don't think it even was her assistant. I think it was like housekeeper or something like that.
It's
But Wait, what was it? What's the details?
So it says there's multiple cases. It says first case was heard in February 2000. Campbell pleaded guilty in Toronto to assaulting her personal assistant with a phone. And then she paid her and had to go to anger management classes. And then by 2006, 8 other employees and associates had come forward with claims of abuse. During this time, Campbell was photographed wearing a chip and pepper shirt that said "Naomi hit me and loved it," which that's fucking like you're known to abuse the people that work for you so much that someone made a shirt for you. It says 2007, Campbell pleaded guilty in New York to assaulting her former housekeeper. You're right, who had accused Campbell of throwing a BlackBerry at her in 2006.
Right. So as you can guess, Tyra got a huge kick out of Naomi's cancellation back in the day.
Right.
It's really not the same as now.
Yeah. No one.
But and so her delight at this, public thing about Naomi, it made Tyra really want to have Naomi on her talk show so that she could get her to admit, is my opinion, that she bullied Tyra. But it really doesn't work. So
yeah, it sounds like this is like one of the most psycho. Like it feels like, I don't want to be like, it feels like surreal. It feels like somebody's became a millionaire and created some kind of like wish fulfillment. That's what it feels like. It feels like if you have an enemy or someone you feel wronged you, even if it's not true, it's like the fantasy where you like confront.
You get so famous that
hate.
You have her on your talk show and you own your bully.
Yeah, you own her and you humiliate her. Like Tyra is trying, even though this is like pre what we define as like cancellation, Tyra's trying to like some kind of world where Twitter's a real thing and you get to like go in a fucking room and like try to make a crowd agree to like publicly shame somebody. It feels like this psychodrama that's real and insane. It's maybe one of the weirdest things ever when I'm like, when I try to explain to someone, Tyra Banks had her like person she hated the most, Naomi Campbell, because she was jealous of her, on her show. She took the audience out and harangued and kind of abused Naomi Campbell, and Naomi Campbell's like a good sport the whole time.
Yeah.
Naomi Campbell almost feels like she's just being like this poor crazy person. Oh my God.
I think the only reason why Naomi did this was because of what happened.
Right.
And her publicity. And she was told by her PR team that it would be a good idea if you go on the Tyra show.
And like,
people will watch it, and they'll also, I mean, I think she did the right thing, and she did humanize herself on this interview, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest and also think that like, I don't think many people cared. Like, I think
No.
some people probably watched it, but like, that's the thing. Naomi Campbell, it was so big and is so big that like I remember people talking about the stuff, but it was almost like a joke. Like she threw, like that's actually fucked up, by the way. Like being known for abusing your assistants and housekeepers is like really fucked up and gross, and that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
But like she was just like fine. She still is fine.
She's fine, yeah.
But like
Tyra's not.
no one really. Tyra has a job. I looked it up. I guess she's like a host for Dancing with the Stars, but like. She is rich, and she, though, like, I'd say, like, in the world of people on YouTube, like, Tyra is gone. Like, people have gone over so many episodes of America's Next Top Model, so many episodes of the show, and really ripped her apart.
They're memes now, and, everybody's seen every instance of Tyra, which she probably would pray to have erased from the minds of everyone, but it's there and it's not going anywhere.
I wish I could talk to Tyra Banks and be like, what do you think of all this? Because I'm sure she's just like, this is just, people are so mean and awful. I'm sure she has no way of even acknowledging how weird she behaved on all these shows. But back to this. So let's assume that Tyra Banks became a model and became huge in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit world. That's
what happened.
She was a big Sports Illustrated
what happened
girl.
Is she tried to make it in the industry by
like
doing
the top model industry.
Yeah, and she was doing runway and stuff like that. And then later, she was told, you're too commercial. And she was, and she's too bubblegum, you know, and so she did Sports Illustrated instead.
Right.
And so that became her.
She blew up, and then she
niche.
also did Victoria's Secret stuff.
Yeah.
Probably lesser, and it seemed Tyra did something smart. She was like, "This has a shelf life. I want to be more than this. If I'm not going to become a, Naomi Campbell, I'm going to do my own thing." And she did something great. She, for whatever your thoughts on Top Model are, it was this giant, huge, popular thing. And by the way, like both Amelia and I, like the first 5 seasons are gold, like reality show gold. The first season especially is incredibly entertaining and interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, Australia's Next Top Model
Yes.
is Amelia's fave.
Yeah, I love Australians.
And it's like
Next Top Model.
They took it off Amazon or Hulu, so now it's like impossible to watch. But
yeah,
that's like side note. But she did this incredible thing, created a hit show, and then did the Tyra show as a side thing that it got pretty big. I mean, I can remember the like now infamous episode where Tyra wears a fat suit and cries about how hard it is to be fat, which is another insane concept. Like it's so cheesy and like jackass-y basically. Yeah. And she's like, I never realized how awful it is to be fat. Like,
remember the kiss my fat ass.
Yeah, and then inversely, when she started to gain weight and people took pictures of her, she like did this whole personal vendetta. Like, she's being judged and she cries and says, "Kiss my fat ass." Or the show basically just felt like she needed people to like cheer for her on TV, which, hey, maybe we probably all wish we had that. But like Tyra had every reason to be really proud of herself. Like whatever your thoughts ethically or morally about what Tyra did, she was a success by every standard. Mm-hmm. A black woman who did this on her own, and it's incredible. And it's just weird and it's sad. She uses that fame and wealth to find her girl that she felt was her bully, and I don't even think that's what happened.
Well, it was known in the fashion world that they had a feud, so
right, it was like a big rumor.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, whenever this 2007 2008 whenever this show occurs, it's almost like Tyra's she's in the driver's seat. Naomi has all this bad press, and Tyra's the one who's won. And now she's gonna confront her, and it's like, I'm sure Naomi Campbell knew she was there to happen, but I think,
right,
as we'll see, I don't think she realized just how essentially unprofessional this interview is, to say the least.
Yes.
So let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay.
Years in the making, supermodel Tyra Banks, supermodel Naomi Campbell, now on Tyra.
It has to be just me and Naomi alone.
The backstabbing, the name-calling, the catfight on the catwalk.
You called me the B word. You said, "You'll never be me."
Years of runway rivalry.
I felt like you were terrorizing me.
Explode in a dramatic confrontation.
Why, Naomi?
An all-new Tyra starts now.
Tomorrow is my conversation with Naomi, and it's been a lot of years of pain and a lot of tears, and I still have all those memories of a lot of negativity from the press. I had to live through it, and it wasn't easy. I'm nervous about it. She probably is too. I don't know, we'll see. I'll see you tomorrow, Naomi.
I mean, I just wanted to say, like, there's truth to, like, the racism that exists with, like, there can only be 2 big black top models, and the press, I guess pushing them off each other,
I'm sure that happened, yeah.
Yeah, and what's sad is, like, it seemed like both of them could probably come together and say, isn't it fucked up our racist culture tried to make it seem like there could only be one big black, female top model. But instead, it feels like Tyra, like, engages in it, and I'm not trying to say that's her fault.
She makes it personal.
Right. What's Tyra's fault is what we're about to see, where she makes it super personal, not the system of racism that exists, by the way.
Yeah.
Today, it's about telling the truth. It's about being honest. Because without honesty, there's no way that you can heal. And today is a healing day for me. And I hope it is a healing day for Naomi too. I remember the very first time I saw a picture of Naomi. I was around 12, 13 years old, and I was sitting in the kitchen with my mama, and we were looking through some magazines, and there was this picture of this model, this black, beautiful model. And I was like, Ma, look how beautiful she is. It's funny, I felt worlds away from Naomi Campbell when I looked at that picture. But the ironic thing is that she would become a significant part of my personal history. And to admire somebody so much and to follow in their career, to actually follow in her footsteps, it was overwhelming for me in a lot of ways, especially since I was just a teenage girl at the time. And the press had cast Naomi and I as rivals before we had even met each other. And there's conditions in the modeling industry that are fueled by rivalry, because back then, let's say there were 10 top models, 10 of them. But there was an unwritten rule, that only one of them could be black. Only one. 10 girls, but only one could be black.
I think, again, this is all about empathy and all about understanding this. Again, that's why I think a lot of the YouTube and Twitter, not every single one, because I haven't watched everyone, just essentially say Tyra Banks is racist and did all this awful problematic stuff. But I think, so when Tyra says, we were played off each other and there could only be one African American out of 10 girls, there's a lot of pain that comes from that, and victimization from the system. Like, it's just interesting to talk about this and then think of the porn episode we just talked about too.
Yeah.
Victims of a kind of the system and how we, but I think the question is, like, how do you play within that system?
Yeah.
And we're going to see that Tyra immediately focuses on Naomi as the bully. Tyra is the good one, and I want you to apologize.
Yeah, and again, it's all your fault for the industry. Like, it's pointing at one person trying to say this whole thing is your fault,
right? Instead of really pointing at the industry of the racism exists within modeling.
Yeah.
And at that time, Naomi was that one black girl. Naomi Campbell set the modeling scene on fire almost 20 years ago, and she was discovered on the streets of London and immediately began to saunter her way across the catwalk. As the first black model to grace the covers of French and British Vogue, Naomi was breaking down the walls of the predominantly white world of modeling. Naomi traveled all over the world, working with the most prestigious fashion designers and sought-after photographers. No way! By the mid-1990s, Naomi was amassing an empire, collecting more than $10,000 an hour from modeling jobs. From hit music videos to dozens of commercials, Naomi has worked with the best.
I am who I am.
Naomi was one of my biggest inspirations when I began modeling. To this day, I still remember the joy I felt when the press first compared me to her. It was one of the most flattering compliments I've ever received. But the compliments and comparisons soon turned to controversy. In the headlines, there wasn't enough room at the top for two black models. And the press orchestrated a fierce rivalry between us. The reports were relentless and fueled a feud between Naomi and myself. For the media, the catwalk wasn't big enough for the both of us. I don't have an in-studio audience here with us today, so I'm going to ask you at home to please help me welcome Naomi Campbell.
It's so weird because it's so quiet.
I know.
How are you?
Have a seat.
Thank you.
No.
Okay, so the beginning of the interview starts with Tyra saying that there is no audience, and it's another way of being like, there's not going to be somebody clapping for you. Yeah.
It's a control method. It's like feels like weird
It's
torture.
super awkward as well.
Yeah, it feels like a torture technique. Like usually when you're interviewed, you have the audience to kind of back
React.
you up.
Yeah,
in some
and
cases,
be neutral too. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the audience can be against you. That's true, but a lot of times they're the neutral person to back you up. And so she's like, "I want to welcome Naomi Campbell," and Naomi's walking out as if they're supposed to be an audience.
Yeah.
And it's like there isn't. It's
And
really
she
brutal.
also says like we're gonna bring them out later.
Yeah. So Naomi's walking out, and it feels like Tim and Eric's sketch. Like nobody's out there.
Yeah.
First of all, Naomi, I want to thank you for coming here.
You're welcome.
This is not easy for me. I know it's not easy for you too, especially with so many years and years of.
But I thought it was a good idea.
What did you think when because I didn't want to call you personally because I wanted the first time for us to see each other. It's been a while.
I didn't want to see you before the show because I think
Yes.
it's better to be fresh. But I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy, and I said yes right away.
Yeah. I want to go back to when I was 17 years old. So that was about, what, 14 years ago.
Well, how old was I? I was 17. I was
21.
Yeah,
Yeah,
21, 1991.
Yeah, 1991. And I don't know if you know this, but even before I left for Paris, I had your pictures plastered all over my bedroom walls.
I didn't know.
Yeah, all.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. Give me your thoughts immediately.
So Naomi sitting there, Tyra immediately goes into how much she was a fan of Naomi, just setting it up to be like, you crushed my dreams,
Right,
you know?
right.
You crushed my teenage hopes and dreams. Just want to let you know that I was your biggest fan, and then you ruined that.
Right, like she's starting to cry. It's already like I'm the victim, Naomi. Look at me. I loved you.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had your pictures all over my bedroom walls. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the Azadina Laya fashion show that we
Yeah,
did
when
together?
we had the braids.
Yes.
Yeah, I
we
remember.
had the
And the little
braids.
white frilly things. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember
So you
very
remember
well.
that fashion
Yeah.
show? And I called my aunt. I said, she's right behind me. Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. She's right here. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at home looking at her pictures, and now I'm in a fashion show with her. But Naomi, do you remember what you said to me?
That's
Now, I want you
something
to.
awful and cruel.
Awful.
What did I say?
You said, I heard you talking about me.
Which
You
I
used a
do. I
bad
hear
word.
everything from everywhere.
Yes, no, but no, you said you heard me physically. You were right behind me. You
Right.
heard me talking about you. You called me the B word,
Uh-huh.
and you said, and we have a photo shoot to do in Anguilla, and it's not going to be pleasant if you're talking about me like that.
I probably did say
And
that.
Why did you say that?
Because I probably just heard the tail end or just thought it must be negative, which it wasn't negative, so now it's something new.
Okay, so Tyra tells her first story, which is I was at a fashion show, and I called my aunt to say I'm with Naomi Campbell's here, and I was so excited. And then what happens?
She said that she was standing right behind her, and then Naomi heard the tail end of the conversation and was like, hey, bitch, keep my name out of your mouth, basically. And, like, at the photo shoot, you better, like, we're going to have to do this together. We're going to have to work together. And if we are, you better, like, stop talking about me.
Right, like, it's going to be bad if you don't stop talking about me. And like, already Naomi is being, like, super... like gracious and I'm so sorry. Now, we're never gonna know the truth of this story, but like
I fully believe what she says a lot of the time is like, I just don't remember that. That's kind of what she says throughout this interview.
Well, see, like I'm if I'm trying to like be both sides of this, I can see because Naomi does say at first, like, I think I probably did say something mean.
Yeah.
But she said I always heard people saying, like, it implies to me that Naomi might have heard that Tyra was talking shit about her in a separate way.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Like maybe the story of Tyra saying, I was talking to my aunt about you, who knows what the truth is of that? Like, I guess we'll never know the truth, like, because this is just two people's points of view. But that's the thing. Like, you'd think, I don't know.
Well, these things have clearly stuck with Tyra for her whole life. She's thought about them in really negative ways, as you would with like the first impression that you get as like a, you know, a young adult of people talking about you and drama and stuff like that, it sticks with you so hard and like remains with you. So you can tell, like, you know, Tyra's put so much thought and in this almost obsessive way about Naomi, and you can tell Naomi just, part of this was funny because you can tell Naomi is just like, I don't think about you, and like I wasn't aware, and you know, I'm sorry if that came across, but she doesn't actually have any connection, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm really sorry.
That was upsetting. What are some of the things that, specific things that people would say? You don't have to worry about hurting my feelings or anything about me or about our, you know, coexisting in an industry. What are some of the specific things they would say? And I can tell you some of the specifics.
Just the regular, she wants to be you, but it's not those things for me. It doesn't matter now. It's now that matters for me, and the timing of, did I understand or did I believe in those people? Those people didn't also help me, because those people would still be the same people around me who would watch me be sad and watch me self-medicate and tell me, Naomi, you look beautiful, you look fine. I don't want those people around me. Those are the people that are very dangerous to have around you. So those people are no longer in my life.
But at the time you bought into what they were saying?
At the time, yeah.
I'm trying to understand.
At the time, everything was just, there was photographers, there was editors, there was stylists, there was makeup and hair. It was just like,
but did they ever compare? Because they would compare constantly. Oh, she's 3 years older than you. I'm like, 3 years, 4 years old, or 4 years?
They compared.
That's the same thing. That's something that I constantly heard over and over again. But what I wanted to say, and to be very clear to you, is when I started to become a fashion model, I never tried to look like you.
No, but that's how they made.
There was a certain look.
Okay, this is in this. It's like Naomi's essentially trying to say there was people in my ear talking shit, saying Tyra wants to look like. Come on, this is the fashion world. Of course, they said stuff like that to her. Like, people are catty in any industry, but this is the ultimate one. And she was saying, like, these were hanger-on type people that let me do drugs and weren't, my best interests weren't really in their heart. And she seems to be very like, I'm sorry, but it's like, you almost want to be like, you don't even need to apologize. Like, it's the modeling industry, but she's being very gracious about this.
Transparent.
Yeah. And Tyra, you know, I don't think we're getting into anything too bad yet. Like,
you know, there was a certain look. You were the only one. You're the only black girl. Make every black girl's hair look like that. Make every black girl's makeup like that. Right. But that wasn't something that I perpetuated. And I remember, for the Aliyah thing, you know the story with the Aliyah when you said
with the hair, the braids.
Yes, the Aliyah fashion show when I was talking to my aunt and you know, kind of accosted me in the hallway there. And then we went on that trip. We went on that trip in Anguilla. Yes. And it started beautiful. I was like, Mama, I called my mama. Mama, she brought me into her room and gave me vitamins. She was so sweet to me. I remember we were at Cap Juluca. Yes, we were at Cap Juluca. Yeah. But I remember being on a boat and I get seasick. I was very seasick on this boat. You were seasick on that boat? Oh, I was, I don't tell people. Like, I didn't, especially in the beginning of my career. I just say, I'm just taking a nap. Really, I wanted to grow up. Okay. Yeah. So I was laying down on this little plank thing. That boat shot there. I was laying down on a plank. Laying down on a pillow. Yeah. And you came and you sat down next to me. And I think you let me put my head in your lap, or you put my feet on your lap. Right. And you're like, sweetie, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said, actually, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. And then you said, I have to ask you something. Right. See, I remember this because I was so new and young. You said, I have to ask you something. Do they try to make you look like me? Right. And I said, I don't know about so much now, but in LA, yeah, they really did with the little short black whibs and
you
stuff.
You told me that, yeah, I remember.
And Naomi, you got up, pushed me away, and said, yeah, I thought so. And you turned.
I did.
You went from the sweetest woman that was giving me vitamins to someone that terrified me on that trip.
Oh my God.
And
okay, so like, it sounds like Naomi's even agreeing that this story might have happened. And okay, all I can think of is like, oh, that's catty and that's shitty, and it has to do with racism within the industry, and you know, Naomi essentially being upset that that Tyra's saying all these people are making us black girls dress like you and look like you, and it's like, they have every right to feel upset and exploited and like the machinations of this racist industry. I think ultimately though, my feeling is like, this could all be a conversation that happened not on camera.
No. And yeah, I don't know if you like, it's funny because at the very beginning she was like, they didn't even talk to each other before this. Like they never had
which
a
is such
conversation.
a bad idea.
It is a terrible idea.
It's like, well, they should definitely
all
talk.
the awkwardness just gets exposed. You're not like, there's no warmth. It's all breaking the ice, you know? And by the time like this interview is done, the ice is broken and everything has like a more positive feel, which it probably should have
been in the
with.
beginning. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Understandable, I can
I
understand.
was told on that trip that I was sent home because you didn't want me there anymore. So I
No,
didn't
that's
finish
not
that trip.
true.
That's what I was told.
I don't have the power of Anna Winter.
There are some specific things that I remember as if it was yesterday that hurt me and hurt me to my core. And I want to ask you about that. And I want to see if you remember them too. We'll be right back.
Okay, this is where I think things start to get weird. It's like, this is already a strange, really surreal situation. Again, this could have just been a conversation that happened privately. It's like, but Naomi's just kind of, again, nicely saying, I'm really sorry this happened. And then now we're getting into what I think where this becomes like aggressive and bullying Naomi.
On Tyra's part, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that photo?
Yeah, I remember.
I remember that photo because we didn't say one word to each other. It was after the thing that happened on the boat.
Right.
And it looks like we're just chilling and talking, but if you see there, I feel the ice in that picture because I remember it like it was yesterday.
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I remember only about the...
There was no communication. I went from calling my mom, like, you know, saying, oh my gosh, she's so amazing, to calling her going, I don't know what happened.
Right.
We just did a photo. She didn't speak to me. Like,
I don't remember. I remember just with your... I remember you telling me about the wigs. I don't remember anything.
You don't remember anything else?
But I remember that the ending of that trip was it was very cold.
We did a fashion show. I don't remember what it was. It might have been Jenny or something like that in Milan. And we were doing that fashion show backstage, and you came up to me right when I was about to walk out, and you said something. And it's so funny because it was so surreal at the time when you said it. I didn't think that you could actually say something like that.
What did I say?
You said something like, you'll never be me, don't ever think that you'll be me, and something like that.
I said that?
Yes.
I can't think, that's something, I'm not that, I'm very much in the, I'm very much, I know the person that I am, and I'm not someone to go and give myself away and say that to anybody. I've never said that in my life. So, but if that's what you remember, I accept that, but it's not, doesn't sound like me to people that would know me.
I'm not sure if you're understanding how much it was painful for me.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think, you know, at this point, Tyra just feels very, very on the defense now, or offense, you could say, and is not really, like, open anymore. She's very much, like, kind of going about it in a way of, like, she's kind of seeking revenge
right
in a way by telling these stories in this like really like exactly the way she remembers it, and like
there's no room for Naomi's to say, because she's saying, I don't know if I remember it that way.
Right.
She's saying like, you sent me home. She's like, I don't think I sent you home. I think, and also this is so awkward because it's like, this isn't an interviewer like Barbara Walters or something interviewing somebody that's supposed to be neutral. Like, I don't know if the interviewer is supposed to interrogate. Like, if anything, Tyra should and Naomi should, there should be some kind of person to mitigate both. It's because inherently this is Tyra's show and she's in control. So that's why it starts to feel really kind of ugly and bully-like, and it starts to feel
it feels like Naomi's trapped in a corner.
Right, with no audience, no one to help her, literally.
Yeah. Right.
And I think it was truly a painful time for you, but I don't want to speak for you. But, and I don't think you know this either, that experience between you and I was one of the most difficult times in my entire life.
So she says that she was traumatized, essentially,
but because
by Naomi.
What Naomi Campbell got mad at her about on the boat, about the people, you know, are you being purposely in LA made to look like me? then she claims Naomi got her kicked off the shoot. And then what?
Then she calls her mom.
Right.
And is like,
this is what happened.
Yeah,
well,
crying.
I guess the point is saying, it's like Tyra's now saying, you caused me to have the most difficult time in my life, instead of the industry caused me to have the most difficult time in my life. It seems like it's like a really brutal thing to blame this on Naomi Campbell, even if Naomi did say some rude stuff to her.
Right.
And then, again, this could have all just been a conversation that two people had alone.
Yeah.
In my entire
See, for me,
life.
I can be really honest. I love modeling. I love this industry. It's given me a lot. It's shown me a lot. It's made me travel the world and meet amazing people. But with what I'm going through in my life in the last 5 or 6 years, and what I've gone through, of what I've come to know in making my mistakes, in maturing with my family, with myself, with my relationships, it's not life-threatening, and it's not that deep. It's not about, I didn't know myself at that age. I want to know what between 20 to 25-year-old really does know themselves at that age. It's especially in such a whirlwind career. What I was envious of you was you had your mother with you. I never was able to have my mother with me. I always remembered you had your mother at all your shows, and she was always there with you, and I thought I wish that I could have my mother with me.
Why couldn't your mother be with you?
Because she just had a baby. And it wasn't possible. She had to raise my brother.
Let me tell you why my mother was with me. When I went to Paris, my mom wasn't with me. We couldn't afford it. I went at 17 years old, right out of high school.
Right.
So she actually had 2 jobs when I left and went to Paris.
Right.
We couldn't afford it. And there was a situation. It was a Versace fashion show. I was backstage getting my hair and makeup done. And this is about a year and a half into this feud thing that was going on.
Okay, so what... Right, you go.
You know, Naomi was like, she's talking about how
Harder
young she was when all of this was happening to her, which is very true. And at that age, you know, you can be petty and then grow out of that, mature,
right.
and then
that's
see
what
how.
She's trying to say.
Yeah, that's what she was trying to tell Tyra, and Tyra has every reason to understand that. You know, she could relate to that if she wanted to, and then like Naomi said something that bothered Tyra, which is, I think, a really valid point that Naomi is making. Like I said, that, you know, Naomi was, you know, this young girl. She was going all over the world, doing whatever she wanted to do, making tons and tons of money. And her mother wasn't there by her side. And that is like a lot of the reasons why she was probably making some mistakes. She did not have a parental figure in her life that was, you know, had her back throughout this whole thing. And so she mentions to Tyra, you know, like, you're lucky that you had your mother with you.
Right, and she's also doing it to connect to Tyra. She's trying to say, hey Tyra, right now you're being really divisive. How about, she's trying to look at Tyra and connect and say, you know what, what I loved about you, or what I wished I was like you, was that you had your mom there.
Yeah.
And like, I think that was so great your mom was there. She's trying to like say like, I envied you. Like, you had this family dynamic. And instead of Tyra going, you know what, maybe I should think about how Naomi, like you just described, was kind of like let loose and didn't have that family there to have her back. She instead
went right back to a different story.
She says, my mom was there because of you. Well, that's what we're about to hear. But she's essentially, and she's lying. This is totally insane. Trying to say the reason my mom protected me is because of what, people like you, essentially.
And then I think his name was Angelo, or Italian name. Can't remember his name. Angelo, was that his name? Okay. Angelo called me, and he said, Tyra, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he had a really weird look on his face. And I said, what is it? He says, I have to cancel you from the fashion show.
Right.
And I was like...
And you instantly thought that was because of me?
No, I didn't. Okay. And I said, why? I just did my fitting. I did everything. The show's about to start in 20 minutes. And he gave me a look and kind of did like that toward you. And I was like, okay.
What, do you ever know Gianni Versace?
No.
Okay, so anyone that knows him knows I could never do that. But just so you know, you're not alone. Kate Moss was canceled after doing a fitting in a rehearsal.
Yes. No. So I've been canceled as a model a lot. I'm not blaming you.
That was the Gianni Versace way.
Yes. no, he's notorious. I knew he was notorious for canceling at the last minute. So that's not what I'm saying.
Nothing to do with me.
This is not my opinion. This is something that somebody did a head nod.
Said,
yes.
So again, it's like she's saying you were canceled, and that she's saying I got canceled because of you.
Tyra got canceled off of the runway show for Versace.
But what's weird is like Naomi's like, I didn't cancel you. Like everyone knows Gianni Versace would cancel models at the last minute.
You're not alone. Kate Moss has been booted off of his shows.
And then all of a sudden Tyra's like, oh, I know. Like, because she's upset.
And then she's like, I'm not blaming you.
But let's be honest, she's also insecure about the fact that Versace, who isn't alive anymore by this point, probably was friends with Naomi Campbell.
Oh, absolutely.
And like that, again, that was the celebrity scene that Tyra was not involved with. Which upsets Tyra. Yeah. So it's like
she's jealous.
Yeah, it's both Tyra going, oh, I know that's what he was known for, but then also saying, oh, hey, this dude motioned over to you. Maybe, number one, maybe what he was motioning over was Versace only thinks one black girl should be in the show. Maybe it was his own racism. Like,
true.
Allegedly, who knows? I'm not saying that Versace is, you know what I'm saying? Who knows? But the point is
she's getting it from just hearsay. She's saying like, yeah, I heard from this person. And
right. And so instead of, again, this happening in closed doors and dealing with it, it's exploited on TV in Tyra's mind, it's I'm gonna get the world to hate Naomi Campbell, even though what she should be mad at is a horrible, fucked up racist industry.
So I picked up my backpack, walked out, and I was like, you know what, this is enough. This is enough, because I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to a payphone.
You called her?
I called my mother and I said, Ma, I can't take it anymore. I dropped down to my knees in that payphone. People were walking by, trying to help me in French, and they didn't know I was okay. I was just emotional. I said, I can't take it anymore. And I said, if she wants it this badly, she can have this entire industry. I got accepted to 5 colleges. I'm coming home and I'm going to school.
Right.
That's what I told my mom. My mom kind of calmed me down, and I said, well, the only way that I can do this is if you are by my side every single day.
God.
So again,
that's not true, by the way.
There's no, I disagree. I agree with you. Like, I don't think that's true. And it's again saying, like, first of all, Naomi saying this didn't happen. Like, I didn't control Gianni Versace. I wasn't going to get him to kick you off. And then it's at once Tyra trying to say, the thing you envy about me, which is my mom, she had to be there because of people like you to protect me. I mean, that's really, I think, over the top. And I have empathy for Tyra Banks, and essentially she must have just felt like there can only be one black model, and why can't I be part of it? That's awful. But to put it all on this other model,
I think
awful.
Also, she didn't have to do that. She resigned in that, like, herself. She could have still, and she still did. What am I talking about? Like, she became successful in her own right, and that didn't define her in those aspects. But I think she wants to play this victim in this situation,
Right. Instead of a conversation about the system, it's a conversation of, you did this to me. You made modeling bad for me. And also, look where I am, and I'm in the seat to shame you. And that's really fucked up.
Well, she has the power at this point. Yeah.
But don't you think some of the things are blown up a little bit? When I would read the press, they'd be like, but this didn't happen. We didn't have a fight on the runway. It really was blown up out of proportion.
No, most definitely. It was definitely blown up and perpetuated. But to me, there are certain things in the press that come from nothing, and then there are certain things that come from truth.
Absolutely.
And I do feel that
it came from somewhere.
It came from.
But I mean, the stuff that was written was exaggerated. Was people adding that little here and bits here and there.
That's always going to be.
And that's always going to be that way.
Because negative press wouldn't have made me want to quit. If it was only negative press. To be honest, Naomi, I'm fearful of you to this day. Not right now. I feel safe. I feel like it's just me and you. There's not a lot of hoopla.
Right.
But even a couple of years ago, when we did the Victoria's Secret fashion show, and I walk in the room and I see you, I'm like, I start shaking. My heart starts beating faster. I go back to the 17-year-old girl
that you used to be.
That I used to be. when this powerful, strong icon woman that I looked up to was terrorizing me.
Like this is the kind of stuff that like I even talk about now, where it's like someone's like, I literally am shaking it because you are making me feel so unsafe, and it's like, whoa, what? Naomi Campbell's not fighting you. Like, whoa, maybe you're nervous, or maybe you have this trauma from the industry.
I think she's taking what happened to Naomi about her saying that she was guilty in assaulting people, and she's saying in this moment, I'm afraid of you, as if it's a physical thing.
Yep, you're
and
right.
then she goes on to say, like, I feel safe with you in this room, but even at this Victoria's Secret show a couple years ago, I saw you and started shaking.
Right, and it's like, that's so unfair. It's like saying...
She was also just as funny. She was just talking about the exaggeration of the press, and she's being extremely exaggerative of these things that, like, you know,
she's saying
she's controlling this narrative in every way. And
it's like the joke of like a movie where someone's like, oh, I feel unsafe around you, and the person's like, wait, what? I didn't even do anything. It's like, it's really it's saying, look, Naomi Campbell did these awful things about throwing stuff at her assistants and stuff, but it's using the actual victims of people being, you know, abused by Naomi Campbell and projecting it onto Tyra. Like, oh, those people are victims. I'm a victim too of your violence. And it's like, wait, no, Naomi Campbell didn't violently attack Tyra Banks. It sounds like everything that happened was like maybe some cattiness, but it was really the fault, again, I keep harping on this, of the system and the industry. And to literally say, I'm afraid of you, is just brutal and unfair.
Yes.
I'm having the conversation with Naomi Campbell that I have wanted to have for so long. And the day is here. There came a time in my career where I started to gain some weight. I started to get curvier. And I was told by my modeling agency that I needed to lose some weight. So I tried to lose some weight, and I was like, you know what? This isn't for me.
Right.
And I'm going to have my agency call Victoria's Secret, call Sports Illustrated, so that I can change my career and won't have to worry about being so thin to be a high fashion model. And to this day, that's the story that I tell the press as to why I left the fashion industry. I just didn't want to fit in those clothes anymore. I didn't want to have to be super healthy and eat only chicken and vegetables. But that's only 50% of it. The other half of that is I was tired of having to deal with you. I was tired of that pain. I was tired of the comparison. I was tired of constantly hearing that I got canceled from this job or this or that, or this photographer was called or this magazine was called and was telling to not use me. So I made a conscious decision, and I said, you know what? I'm tired. I'm so tired
Tyra's
of this.
basically saying here that her treatment from Naomi was worse than all of the things in the industry.
Yeah, that's crazy.
She's like, which, you know, it's funny because she's like, the reason why I told everybody that I left the modeling industry is because I didn't want to diet and to fit into like the sizes that they wanted me, that I had to be in. So I did Sports Illustrated and Victoria's Secret. And that too is just a branding tool that she used at that time. But then she's saying, like, that wasn't really the truth. I had to say that because I didn't want to tell people that it was because of Naomi Campbell.
Right. Again, it's like, my mom was there protecting me because of you and your brutality. And then I decided to do Sports Illustrated because of people like you that made me, you know, it's like...
Yeah, and it's like subtly blaming her for the other stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah, for all of the industry's problems.
Right, and it's like, that's so unfair. And
yeah,
it's
it
like,
is.
why was, you know, it makes you want to be like, why was there only 5 years of the Tyra show? How, I mean, I think the show was relatively popular for a daytime show. I could be wrong, because she was, you know, she would do stuff that was like talked about in the world, but like, it sounds to me like, I can only imagine how harsh of a person she, like I assume maybe somebody might have been like, hey, I don't know if this is a good idea, like, to like brutalize Naomi Campbell, because you can't, like, Oprah doesn't interview someone she hates. Like, that's unfair. There's a power dynamic shift.
And it's a conflict of interest.
Right. It's like, and instead it's, whatever happened, she was in control and she got to do it. And I think you want to say, I wish there was someone saying to Tyra, like, Naomi Campbell isn't that powerful. Like, this isn't really about Naomi Campbell. And
it's actually about Tyra's delusions about Naomi as this villain.
Right, the boogie woman who represents
it's like clearly,
everything bad about the moment.
Yeah, it's like Tyra's kind of like not meaning to, but she's revealing so much of her own weird, like, neurosis or like, just like her this unhealthy obsession that she's had for her whole life with Naomi Campbell.
Right.
First of all,
do you have proof that photographers record? Do you have any proof
I have some close people with big names that I definitely will not tell their names today because they kick my butt. Yeah. But I have to say that I do believe a lot of it. I do believe a lot of it because there's a lot of these people have nothing to gain.
Wait, I'm confused when we
by
get this out.
that.
What is she saying that they told her?
She's just saying that Naomi was the reason, like, they're going back to what they were saying, what they were talking about before about her being kicked off of the runway shows.
Oh, okay.
So it's like she's stuck on that, she's not moving on.
Okay.
So that's why it's confusing.
Right. So she's like, going back, and Naomi's saying, "Is there any proof about this?" And she's saying, "Oh, I heard."
They're not people that are gossip mongers.
I can understand you want to believe it. For me, it's not important to me. Mm-hmm. As I said, I'm in a part of my life, even then, where life means more to me than that. This is just the fashion world is a small pinnacle in the hemisphere of what really is going on.
But what happened at that time for me, Naomi, what happened for me at that time is a big part of who I am today. It was one of the lowest points in my life, but we all learn from the things that happen in our lives that are negative, and I think that's what made me start T-Zone. I think that that rivalry has made me start America's Next Top Model because I says I will never be what that represented.
Right.
And I went 100% against that and said, and I don't think it was a conscious thing. It's something I look back on now and go, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I started my T-Zone. Maybe that's why I started America's Next Top Model. Maybe that's why I have this talk show. So to teach that no matter what people say or do or try to look at women as marionette puppets that they want to create this bickering and this battle and this fighting, that we have to be bigger than that.
Absolutely.
We have to be more responsible than that. And so experiencing that and being, I think, a victim, both of us, victims of that.
There's so many more things out there to be victims of, but I don't actually want to ever say that I'm a victim.
Okay, well, there's a couple really interesting thoughts I have. Like, first, it's Tyra saying, like, "Oh, I'm look at me, I'm really, powerful, and I made these really successful businesses or things," but then it's her saying, "Hey, like, they were treating us like puppets and controlling us," and then of course Naomi's like, "Oh, I'm not a victim," but I think there's something is interesting where it feels like what Tyra really wants is she wants to become the person who controls the puppet strings. Like, oh, you're gonna say that we had this. You're going to sell papers by pitting the two black models against each other. Well, what if I'm in control of that and I sell it in my own personal way? Like it's like not only is she selling it's really twisted. She knows that Tyra Naomi sells a lot. Like, there's a video right now, we're on YouTube, where it's like 1 million views about the feud. So it's almost like Tyra's like, well, I want to control. If someone's going to make money off of it, it better be me. It's almost like if they were like, what episodes of your show should we do, Tyra? Well, let's do a Naomi-Tyra feud. But not only is she using that and making money off of it, she's making it her own. She's making it into her own struggle session. She gets to bash Naomi over the head. So it's like, not only do I get to be part of the evil system, but I also get to make it personal. That's why this is so interesting and weird. It's like, wait, number one, you want to be part of the evil system? That was part of what makes America's Next Top Model so weird. It was like,
exactly.
We're going to redefine this, and we're going to push black and, Asian, all kinds of different girls.
But then her own insecurity always gets in the way of what she's doing, and she actually ends up doing the opposite of what she's saying.
Exactly. It's always like, I'd rather be in control than to destroy the system. Like and that's, you know, that's a complex thing because some people are just trying to survive. But I think another thing that's sad is, you know, and this isn't so surprising in this kind of like capitalist hellhole where it's like Naomi's like, oh, I'm not a victim, I'm just going through the life. But it's like, it's not about saying, oh, you are a victim, but rather what Tyra just described isn't their fault. And this system created these feuds, but they're handling it in two different ways, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Naomi's trying to ignore it and just kind of move on past it, especially after all the stuff she's been dealing with the court cases she had to go through. And then Tyra's like, no, I want to control it and be a part of it, you know?
I'm someone passing through my life that's going to hit the lows, it's going to hit the highs, it's going to hit the successes.
Yes, but in being a victim, you don't have to let that conquer you. It's being victimized and then being empowered.
It's not going to conquer me. It's like in terms of like when I wanted to go in recovery, it's the best thing I ever did in going to recovery. Mm-hmm. I learned so much about myself for years. I can remember things from when I was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And it just very vividly, and I was like, wow. It's
like what from when you were 3?
Things that just affected me now. That and at that time when it came into my mind.
What do you mean by that?
When I was a child, something happened to me, and my whole family was like, no, she's crazy.
Sexual abuse?
And it wasn't really sexual abuse. It could have been, but I was very much of a child that I came in and I spoke up very much for myself. I was like, so I screamed out. I was like, go away. And that, by being loud.
So it was a possibility of sexual abuse, but
because I was loud, I got it. It didn't happen. And I just.
In this way, that this whole interview parallels the Sasha Grey stuff. Yeah, it's very weird.
It's like, what Naomi's trying to tell a story about how she got off drugs. I assume she got in recovery,
right? And
she was able to deal with trauma. It's basically what she's trying to say.
Yes, she said she recovered memories from her early childhood, which, you know, whatever.
Like, well, right. Like, there's probably a real memory.
Yeah.
And that she was able. Essentially, she's just trying to say, I dealt with some trauma through recovery. And instead of Tyra could have just said it as, oh, so you dealt with some traumatic things and it
healthy.
Helped you.
Yeah.
But instead,
she goes, well, what was that recovered memory? Do you want to tell us about it? And then she's like, well, she goes on and she doesn't say initially that it was sexual in nature, and then Tyra puts that on her and is like,
pulls it out of her. Yeah.
Oh, were you sexually abused? And you know, Naomi's like, well, I could have. I don't know. And like, yeah.
Well, and it's really fucked up. It's like, if a victim doesn't want to express that's what happened, you shouldn't push her.
No.
And again, it's always like, number one, oh, I know what you're talking about. I want to make it. She's using the specter of sexual abuse to make her look weak, almost, or not weak, but like,
this is
like,
why
I know what's wrong with you.
Yeah, I know what's
wrong.
Naomi, yeah,
I control you. I know what's wrong with you.
Yeah,
That's
and it's almost
so
like
twisted.
Tyra's giving her the only out that she could ever have that she's offering to Naomi is by
giving in.
Giving in to Tyra and like being like, yeah, Naomi, like, you want to tell us that this is why you did this really is because you were sexually abused. It's weird. It's like what she's trying to do to Sasha too.
Yeah. Like, Sasha Grey, admit you were sexually abused and that you're the ultimate victim and that I'm the ultimate empowered person. And like, as long as you bow down and agree, I'll let you squeak by as the victim. And it's like, again, with Tyra, it's like, I know what you're talking about. You were sexually abused, weren't you? Give in to me.
Yeah.
And it's really inappropriate. And this is why people get upset with Tyra.
Right.
You're using this as a control mechanism.
Yes.
I was in the desert and I just was like, you know what? It's something that I want people to know, that rehabilitation should be taught in schools, because it's something, once you know the tools, you know when you're not happy, when to stop and say, I gotta take time out. When to say, okay, I'm trying to please everybody, I'm not pleased, and this is not working for me, and not be afraid to say, I don't want to do this anymore, because there's a lot of, like, you get so secure in one thing and you say, okay, if it's over, what do I do? I'm not afraid of anything anymore. I'm willing to just face things as they come.
At one time you were afraid?
Yeah,
what were you afraid of?
I was afraid, like when I realized I had to go to rehab, and I was like, okay, I need to take off a month of work. Oh my God, I can't take off a month of work because I'm going to miss this, and I'm going to miss this because I got a perfume. I'm like,
what did you think would happen at that time, the fear, if you did take off that month? What did you
it wasn't
think
a fear of not, it wasn't a fear that I was going to, actually, I don't know. I really don't know.
You think your stock would have gone down if you would have taken off that
stock. It's about emotionally drained, spiritually drained. I would have been no good to myself, not healthy in mind, not healthy in spirit.
Sure, her addiction was, Naomi's addiction problems had everything to do with the industry that she was working in.
Right, it was a way to cope.
And so what she's saying here is like, I was really scared initially when I went into recovery because it meant that I had to quit my addiction of fame, of drugs, of partying, of shows, of working, all of that. I'm sure that was insane.
Right.
Her whole life at this point is totally different, and the way that she's dealt with it is probably,
right.
like.
And I think it's interesting. The only thing that Tyra had to say was, "What are you afraid of?" And I think Naomi was like, you just noticed she was like, "I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you. Look what you just said. Look how you just responded." It's almost like now Naomi's at least trying to protect herself a little more.
Right.
Do you feel like you've had to put up a lot of defense in this industry to survive in an insane world?
I put up defense because I don't want to show my vulnerability. I put up defense I think people who really know me, Tyra, my really close friends, I have a big heart, I'm very generous, when I'm very loyal. And I'm happier now than I was in my 20s. I'm much happier now.
Why is that?
Because the way I was living my life then was too much. I was like trying to make everybody else happy, but I wasn't happy.
You weren't happy?
No.
So what did you do by not being happy? Because to me,
well, I tried to self-medicate, and I tried to numb my pain. And then, 97 was a really difficult year for me. I lost 6 friends in very strange circumstance, one of them being Gianni Versace. And I think that was a year when I started to go down because I was really not knowing how to cope with grief. I didn't know.
You didn't know. And how did you deal with it? You dealt with it by taking?
I self-medicated myself. I drank. I went out. I just was like, no, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. But each time another drama or another grief or death came into my life, it wasn't enough time to catch up from the last grief. So it was just one big melting ball. It just rolled down.
So when I met you, when I was 17 years old, say until I was a fashion model until about 25 years old, were you self-medicating yourself at all during that time?
I didn't take my first drug until I was 24 years old.
24, really? Let's go back to Paris.
It's just funny. She keeps going back to the age and going back to the age of Sasha. It's like,
no, yeah, we know. Complete your thought. What were you?
Oh, it's just funny. She harps on like the age of like I was innocent. Naomi's actually trying to talk about death and recovery. She's not being a good interviewer, not even dealing with it all. Now it's back to Tyra. And anyway, it was just funny because she kept talking about Sasha's age, but she takes it. She wants, instead of like actually having a real interview with Naomi Campbell, she wants to go back and make it be about Tyra, even though they just dealt with it.
Let's go back to Paris. I'm 17 years old, and all these people are saying these negative things. Oh, look out, Naomi, here comes the new one. Uh-oh, you better get back. Oh, look, she's trying to look just like you. You better get that. How would you handle...
Not now? If I had that knowledge of...
If you could do it all over again, how would you handle...
I think I wouldn't. I just really simply wouldn't have bought into it. I would have just not bought into it, and then it would never have escalated. I think when you buy into things... People are malicious, people like negative, like you've said and sat here and gone over many times, and I think that only you are the one, if you pay attention, that makes it escalate. But I didn't realize at that time that's what would happen. I was like listening because I was not a little older than you, but I was also not in my country. I was also used to, oh, you're this, you're that, you're this to that. I think, it really is buying into it. If I knew then not to buy into it like I know now, it would never have escalated.
And we would never be sitting on this couch right now.
But I am happy to be sitting on this couch right now. So, I'm happy to, when you say 14 years later, to be sitting here and to wanting to have done this show. And I didn't really tell anybody that I was coming to this show because I didn't want to have to hear what they thought. So I thought I'd come. They don't know I had to go to LA, but they don't know what I had to come there for. And they will now. But no, I'm happy that I came.
I'm happy that you came too.
I really am.
I really am too. Are we ready for the audience?
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't have done this with the audience here. So when we come back, we're going to have everybody here, the entire audience, and Naomi and I together for the first time in front of an audience in, I don't know how long, a long
You
time.
said 14 years.
14
So
years.
she's 14 years.
Yeah,
14 years.
14 years. All right, we'll be right back. Well, before the break, I have to say that one of my wishes, one of the biggest wishes that I've ever had has come true. I had a conversation with Naomi Campbell, a long, in-depth conversation, and I got a lot of answers, and it has started my healing from all of the devastating rumors and gossip and rivalry and pain that I have experienced. I've started to heal, and I think Naomi has too. And now the audience is here, right?
Okay, so it's like Naomi essentially gives in and apologizes. Well, you know, I'm glad. That's nice. Like, that's a great thing to do. I mean, whatever reason she did it, whatever, you know, maybe it was for a career, maybe it was because she really did feel for her, and you know, that's like, I think those are valid. Whatever happened, that's cool. Like, but I don't know. But it's like, at the same time, this is what Tyra wanted, which is kind of her giving in and being like, you're apologizing on the stage in front of everyone.
Yeah, and then when the audience is allowed to come back in, they basically, the rest of the interview is basically about how pretty like Tyra is and how like, you know,
how you did it. You submitted to me.
Yeah.
Naomi, thank you so much for saying that, because I have to admit, before the break, it was a beginning of a healing.
I know.
But I still felt like,
closure.
yeah, I still felt like I don't think she's owning up to anything, or, you know, and by you just saying that one thing, you have no idea what my heart is doing now. Thank you so much.
Like, that's insane.
So,
I mean, Tyra just basically said, I don't really think you were changing during the break, Naomi. I don't think she's really apologized. Like, what? Like, that is such a mean girl shit. And then Naomi did it. She apologized, and she's like, it's almost like, again, Tyra knows that Naomi at this point was in a very precarious place with all the stories and all the actual legal issues she was in for abusing. You know, that's all real shit, by the way.
She's already using that for her show.
She's like basically saying, if you want this chance for me to say, you know, to
you're
be
a good person or whatever,
right?
You've changed,
right? Then you have to submit to me, and it's just like, what? Also, Tyra, you're not even bringing up. Like, if Tyra wanted to, she could bring up the people that Naomi threw shit at. She doesn't even care, clearly. She's not bringing up those people. All she cares about is herself. Like, if she was really having a conversation about, like, Naomi, it does worry me that you've hurt other people. No. It's not about any other possible victims. It's just about her.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, okay, now that you're apologizing, you're cool. Like, that's insane, it, too.
Right.
Thank you so much. Guys, sorry. I'm tearing up right now. You're tearing up right now. And one of the things that I didn't know and that you didn't know is that your mom and me have the same exact birthday. Why do you think that made you tear up when you found that out?
I'm going through a lot with my mother. My mother has breast cancer and also cancer in the arm. And she's right now in America having treatment. So it's been a lot of things. I mean, a lot of having to learn and read and books and doctors, and I'm her only daughter, and she has my brother is 20, and so it's been just how valuable, and my mother's really been the only one there for me, so it's like been very much like learning something new, which it's fine, I'm happy to learn, and I know that I'm very optimistic, and so is she, and they have incredible doctors in America.
Most definitely.
And that's why I'm happy I got her here, and she's getting the best help, and she's very happy and optimistic. So
when you So the reason why you teared up is because you're going through that with your mother. You say that I look like your mother, which I have to agree. I look like your mom, and we share the same birthday, and we've had a history.
Yeah,
so it was just a whole bunch of emotions.
It was a whole bunch of things, and that just like put the lid on it for me.
Wait, like if they talked about Naomi's mom during the break or something, is she trying to imply like some kind of Freudian nonsense? Like,
yes,
I was your.
That's the way it ends up at the end. I wanted to.
It's some weird thing.
It always has stuck with me. In
this wasn't obviously in like recorded, but is she trying to imply like maybe the reason I was jealous of you, Tyra, is because you looked like my mom and reminded me of my mom, so I was rebelling against you? Like that sounds like some weird new age hokum, like, you know, goofy psychology stuff. Yeah. It's just strange.
And her mom and Tyra has the same birthday.
Like as if that means anything at all.
And they look alike or whatever.
Which I don't know if that's even true. It's just an interesting like strange thing that I don't know.
Well, my prayers are with and for your mother, and I'm sure my audience and everybody at home too. Thank you so much. Thank you for a speedy recovery. I didn't know that. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that.
Hey, she's a fighter.
She's a fighter. Yeah, she's a fighter. Okay, now one of the things, Naomi, that I was fearful of in the past was this reputation. Oh, Naomi, she's violent. She'll kick your ass. You know, like don't mess with her. And so I never saw that happen, but you hear all these crazy stories.
Oh, I've had some crazy things happen to me in my life, absolutely. Some that I am not proud of, that if I could turn the clocks back, I would not have made them happen, which they'd never happened, but they happened. And as I said, I'm human, and I make mistakes, and I'm living with them, but I'm aware that they were wrong. I'm aware that no one should ever push you to the point of making you lose control. That is so important, because it's all, everything you've ever, every self-respect is gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
So what do you do now?
I walk away. Yeah. I mean, it can be a boyfriend, it can be I have to walk away. I can't relapse on my anger.
Because what happens is you're Naomi Campbell, the millionaire, and they're like, hit me right here.
Exactly.
Hit me right here. You know, they'll try to take advantage of that.
But there's been situations where it has come up that, you know, because I have had that past, it's easy for people to say, oh, she did that to me, and it is a payout. And that's the double-sided sword, basically, if that what happens
so
with that.
Now both Naomi and Tyra are like saying, oh, those people just want your money? Like...
Oh, yeah.
Now it sounds like Tyra.
But it's funny because Tyra is the one that is doing exactly that. It's very funny.
Well, it's just weird because it's basically like, more of what I was saying is like Tyra doesn't seem to actually care about Naomi's anger issues if she's basically like, oh, well, now you've submitted to me, so those people just want your money, Tyra. Like, Naomi, fuck them. You know what I mean? Like, it's really selfish, you know?
Yeah.
And myopic, and Tyra's existence is the only thing that matters. And oh yeah, Naomi maybe like fucked with some other people, but like whatever, it has nothing to do with me. You know what I mean?
Well, you do have a sense of humor about it.
I got it. I mean, I think I was sent a T-shirt last Fashion Week. Someone sent me a T-shirt saying Naomi hit me, and on the back it said I loved it. And they sent it to me and they said, well, will you wear it? And I said, of course I'm going to wear it. What am I going to do? But
you know what's so funny? Miss J, you know, Miss J Alexander actually wore that shirt.
How did he get one?
I don't know. He wore it on America's Next Top Model.
Did not.
So I was gonna blur it out. Do you want me to still keep it in the show?
No,
or do you want me to
in the show.
Okay, it's in the show.
Let me start making that
in the show. I was gonna blur it out. I was like, is she gonna think I did that? I didn't do that.
Thank you.
All right. No. Well, I know you have a sense of humor about this whole violent Naomi thing, and you actually did a very funny commercial spoofing yourself. So
you saw that?
I have it.
Oh my
God. Check this out.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is like another kind of element. I mean, this is kind of besides the point, but it's another element of like our culture, you know, has gotten much more sensitive these days, and there's a whole conversation about that. Not, you know, I'm definitely, but this is like making light of like her basically being abusive to the help or to, you know, people below her, or people working for her, I guess is the better term, which is fucked up. And like, again, it's like saying there's this awful system that fucked with Naomi and Tyra, and now they're both people in power within certain contexts, and it's almost like laughing about, oh, look.
Now we can have a sense of humor
about abusing people.
Yeah.
that to me showcases just how much Tyra's like fear and worry about Naomi's, seems to be only about Tyra's issues and nothing to do with people that actually got hurt. And in this point, they're all just laughing about it, showing commercials about Naomi hitting people. I mean, it's fucked up.
Yeah, and mentioning that, well, it actually wasn't mentioned, but Tyra did a episode on America's Next Top Model where one of the models like did a photo shoot
of her throwing a phone or something.
Yes, and it was like this. It's like this weird
joke.
It's a joke for Tyra, especially at the time. I'm sure she was just like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna relish in this as much as possible."
Right.
If you want to get them, you can go to tyrashow.com and you can find out how you can get all of Naomi Campbell's products. Now,
okay, I think really the meat of this is before the audience comes back in, but ultimately Tyra, I think, is a really interesting person because she seems to not stay on script. She, in all of the things she does, it's about her and her desire and her needs, And
right. And she always wants to hold the power. Mm-hmm. But actually, I think like the most powerful thing that she could do is kind of relinquish some of that and kind of like appear human, not try
vulnerable.
to be so infallible with everything. And it actually kind of backfires on her pretty much every time she does that.
And I think it's thinking about America's Next Top Model and the way that she would, there's something I always talk about how in America's Next Top Model, she like, Tyra is always talking about how she takes acting lessons.
Oh, yeah.
And like how she seems to be upset that she couldn't become a real actor. Like, I guess Tyra was in this Coyote Ugly movie, but like basically nothing else, probably little things.
Yeah.
But there's all these parts where Tyra's doing like essentially skits and improv stuff.
And like the girls don't know about it, so she'll like fake a seizure on the floor.
Right.
Like all of these dumb
or she'll
things.
she'll try to do like Eddie Murphy, like jokey. She puts teeth and the point is like this. She makes it about her desires and herself and creating this. That's what's interesting about it. Uh-huh. She has a show, so she controls all the puppets. Like she said, the marionette strings. And it's like she gets the people to react in a way that she wants, where it's like, you guys need to understand. Like when she's talking about when she tried to do a singing career and she made everyone act in her music video. Like she was like, do you know how hard this is for me to like do something?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And it's like...
She injects some weird like narrative of herself at the time of being like, this is about me. And like...
Right.
I've been learning this whole time about myself. And that's like actually where everything kind of starts with America's Next Top Model too. Is like, I'm learning this all about myself and how I can change the industry by like knowing my worth and like all this kind of stuff.
I mean, and that's the thing. And the people that she would choose, which by the way, nobody became real models, right? Like that's the other joke of it all. The only person who really became a model
didn't win in the first season.
Elise, who was like a third runner up or something like that.
Yes.
And she, clearly should have been the one that won, but it wasn't about. You always had Janice Dickinson being like, none of these girls are models. Like
yes,
she'd be like, most of you guys, like she'd just be like, you guys probably aren't going to be real models. She was always acknowledging how this thing was this fake creation. But I think this was Tyra's world to make the decisions that she wanted, and she would it was always about her insecurities and who she was. And I think these two interviews showcase so much about who she is and and really about who we are as people and our psychology and how we express ourselves and how we try to control the narrative. And anyway, I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice, but thank you guys so much for like checking these two interviews out with us. We want to do, we want to do film stuff. And we want to do this is all stuff me and Amelia talk about when no one's recording. Right. Like we've talked about both of these interviews a million times, and I hope you find it interesting. And yeah, well, please listen to our next one, whichever one it'll be. But this is the Breathing Problem Productions podcast. I'm Rusty Kelly.
And I'm Amelia McKay. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.